yes, let's talk about X-Men 97.
God, it feels like a lifetime ago that I watched that.
Ago.
No, seriously, I've just gone through a lot.
So this episode really got me more emotional than I expected. So I texted you because I watched it on Friday, and it legitimately made me tear up a few times. Like I legitimately had some tears on my cheek. Because it's such a excuse me. It's such a celebration of how well written these characters are, how well written this show is, that it was such an impactful finale.
Yeah.
And I got to be honest, like I said coming in, I was a basic bitch because I was like, my favorite X-Man is Wolverine. This show has made me, and you know, going back and reading more of the X and learning more about the X-Men lore and you know, going back, realizing that Cyclops is probably the best. I'm not saying he's the best, but for me, I think my new favorite X-Men character is Cyclops. Like, he's so fucking good in this show. And you know what? I'm not upset at all that Wolverine didn't get his, like, he had his moments, but he was in the background. And I'm like, you know what? That's because that's an X-Men story. Like, he's truly not, he's the most popular X-Men character, but some of the best stories, he's not involved. And like the supporting cast is so good in this show. Like when, man, I fucking
the voice acting is beyond compare. Honestly,
like, and we're gonna kind of jump around. Like,
but
at this point, you've seen it, you know it, whatever.
I think Bo DeMeo has said that there was a conscious effort to move away from Wolverine
because all those
stories.
Fox movies
and
focused
let's
on
be
him,
really fucking honest. The what happened at the end of part 2. Where he gets everything ripped out of his, the adamantium ripped out of him. That's, I mean, leading into shit. That could be a Wolverine-centric story,
but that's
side story.
And that's what I'm saying is, like, this show is so well written and so well done that someone who like Wolverine a lot.
Yeah.
I'm okay with him.
My favorite is Nightcrawler.
I'm okay with him not getting the central focus because he does have his moments. And, like, this episode especially, it's like, yes, you're seeing more and more. It continues to show you that Scott, in my opinion, and general consensus, I think, for a lot of X-Men readers of the thing of, like, Scott is a better leader than Charles. Let's be honest, Professor X kind of fucking sucks at this.
Well,
he's always been bad at this.
As long as I've been reading, like, again, I came in around the time that Paul Smith and then a little bit after that John Romita Jr. started. So we're talking like early to mid 80s when I started reading it. By that point, Professor X was largely like just chilling out at the mansion most of the time. Like Cyclops or Storm was the leader, like in the field and whatnot, and as a general kind of just as a super team, if you will. But yeah, I think, I've never been a huge Cyclops guy. The reason why, my first real introduction to Cyclops, he was in the comics a lot that I read, but I don't know if it was just that Wolverine was a big part of him more often than not. But the real big Cyclops story was when he and Storm fought for leadership and Storm beat him. And he was kind of being a punk about leaving. He had told Madeline prior that they would leave as soon as the baby was born, and then he fucking chicken shit out.
And Scott becomes what his dad was to him, and he never wanted to be that guy because his dad abandoned him in his eyes before he finds out about the Starjammers and all that stuff.
Well, what happened? Yeah, sorry,
but yeah,
what happened in
the reason I really fucking love Scott and how they did Cyclops in this show. The part that I cried is after Bastion is like ripped off Cable's arm and beat Cable, but Cable was saved by his parents, and he's getting repaired. His arm's getting repaired by Forge, and they're like, Jean and Scott are planning for their final assault pretty much. Like they see this as a suicide mission. They don't think they're going to make it off of Asteroid M pretty much. So she does like a telepathic or projection.
Astral projection.
Astral projection
Dude.
of them, whatever.
Read a fucking comic
Read a
book.
fucking... She's not a sorcerer, buddy. She's not doing an astral
It's the
projection.
same thing, though.
Anyway, but that moment where he said, they've always said you have my eyes, to Nathan, and takes the visor off, and Jean helps him control the beams. And he says, you have my eyes. No, fuck you. It's a sweet moment. I teared up. Because Scott is fine, Scott is having this tender moment, even though he has to understand some things about how he loves Nathan. He doesn't care about the circumstances, but there is that thing of he's never truly going to get him. There are always going to be ships passing in the night because Cable's destiny is to do this. He's done it 200 times at this point.
Yeah.
And
no, I'm not. See,
I know you're playing with me.
Well, no, but here is something. Here is where I didn't feel the same sort of emotion because I don't know. I don't have any kids.
You're not a parent,
and I'm also not really close with my dad at all. So, Well, hang on. Now I'm gonna start crying right now because now I'm thinking about it.
No.
That's you let me.
No,
just,
fuck you.
You egg-sucking piece of gut trash.
But Cyclops, again, was mostly a punk. But yeah, I agree with you in the respect that this series did a really good job because the movies did fucking punk his ass out.
Oh, it's all about Wolverine. Those movies are all about Wolverine.
I like James Marsden, and I think he did the best he could with the material that they gave him, right? And editing goes a lot, whatever. But they did punk him out, and this show did a really good job of bringing back Cyclops as one of the premier X-Men, and he always should. He's one of the originals.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Jean Grey are really the only originals that stick around.
He's still a dude that truly, I think, in a similar way where I think Dick Grayson is better than Batman, I think Scott is better and more effective than Charles is at delivering their message. Because there's multiple times.
I'd say you're right.
There's multiple times
Except
in this
for the time
season
when Cyclops killed Professor X in the comics.
Hey, well, we're not getting there, and we're not dealing with that. So multiple times during this show, even in this episode, where it's the most justified for him to kill Bastion. Bastion fucking deserves to die. And he stops. And he says, we're going to show mercy. And it's again, to me shows, and you could argue and all this about Charles, what he does for Eric in this episode. But again, I love that scene with them, but again, it just keeps reminding me that Professor X and Magneto were never good for mutants. They were never good for the X-Men because at some point they're always destined to have this conflict because Charles doesn't understand Eric's pain when he constantly has to be like, I fucking lived in Nazi Germany, man. I saw this shit firsthand, what a genocide is.
Well, when you think... Jesus... Can we get some tea with some honey down here? When you think about it, they're flip sides of the same coin, but they're both so rigid in their message, whatever you want to call it, and how it should be delivered. That they're both kind of dangerous for mutant kind, but the X-Men have done a really good job of just kind of taking both because most of the season they were under Magneto as the headmaster, and they learned some stuff from him and also kind of he affected them and whatnot. So they're kind of two halves of the same whole, and they're going to be more effective at it. And Scott's going to be more effective because he's seen how Magneto works. He grew up with Professor X and seen how he works. He's going to be a better leader every time. And in the comics, don't forget, Cyclops and Jean Grey are the only ones who don't leave when they have the big reboot with the giant size X-Men with I like to call the international team of X-Men's X-Men because it's the Russian and the German.
Yeah. Well, so is Hank. Hank's always been there since the beginning. Beast.
No, Hank left. It was.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm just saying Beast was one of the original X-Men.
Right.
because he's been there forever too.
Right. But what
Where
I
he,
right.
then he
But
mutated.
what I and I'm being my glasses pushing up the nose self.
Well, actually,
But yeah. Yeah. Actually.
but yeah, fuck you. How's that? Try that on for size.
Sorry, man. What do you want?
So, but I will be honest. I did tear up a little bit with Charles and Eric because despite having that feeling towards the two, there is that raw emotion because the episode starts with them having like their mutant coming out story of talking about, and
I really like the framing device that they used.
Of
How
the
loud is it? Good God. Oh, sorry. Was that just me being loud? I really like the framing device. Sorry, we have
of the rising tides. Yeah.
well,
the
yeah,
water.
just the bar basically. But yeah, all that stuff was very ethereal and very outside the box thinking that I think made the episode that much more effective and
it makes so much sense.
Well, yeah, their whole dynamic is just. You know what? You can do a big. I read an article, and this makes so much, and this is what I'm getting at is that every end of Marvel movies and TV shows and everything, no matter what the show or movie has been about, every single fucking end or climax is a big CGI, big battle fucking thingy, whatever, right? And what do you expect coming into this, right? You expect, holy shit, they're going to kick Magneto's ass for doing this to Wolverine, blah, blah, blah. No, it's subtle. MCU, take note. It's subtle, and instead of a big drawn-out battle, it's these two adversaries meeting in each other's minds.
And forcing each other to have a conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
How fucking cool, and that's
But-
way more fucking, that lands way harder.
But again, this continues to be the problem with what's always made Charles and Eric so interesting, and what continues to be the problem and why I think ultimately
Why they're dicks.
they're bad for mutant kind because like you said, they're so firm in their beliefs that giving Eric's backstory and knowing where he's come from, I understand, and I don't necessarily think he's wrong, especially what Bastion did on Genosha.
Right.
And the response, especially the fucking response where they got left, because again, they're the mutants. Fuck them. They're not the Avengers. They're not, and I don't know, maybe in this universe the Avengers haven't formed
dude,
yet,
I'm not
but for sure, these characters have existed in these
I'm
shows.
assuming the Avengers exist.
Because Spider-Man exists. They've showed it exists in this universe.
For a long time, Spider-Man was not in the Avengers.
No, but what I'm saying is
yes.
there's this episode is, oh my god, dude.
I feel like
We got to get to the cameos at some point.
for sure, but I feel like don't you feel like this in this universe all of these characters exist it's a comic.
Yeah, the point is, after
it's
what
adjacent to the comic universe, if you will.
After we witnessed what happened to Gambit,
Yeah.
and everything that happened on
I hated the
Genosha,
fucking Iron Man design, by the way. God damn.
that's what he looked like in those shows.
I fucking know, and it was stupid.
It sucked then, and it sucks
Suck
now.
now, dude. Suck now.
Fuck 'em.
Ah.
But no, to have because and again it makes so much sense because of that huge climax of the last episode. You almost have to start here.
Yeah.
Because you have to slow everything down so you can build it back up
How
again.
fucking how much did you think that onslaught was happening at any given moment in this episode? The first 15 minutes, right?
I didn't.
Especially when he got
No.
up and forced his fucking way into his head.
So again, that's another thing I want to talk about. Again, the problem with Charles and the problem.
You didn't think onslaught at all?
Time out. I
Okay.
understand that he truly felt if he didn't do this, there still would be a blackout, and humanity wouldn't have power. Not just humans, but mutants. Everybody would lose power.
Well, they had to fix the.
But again, to get to this goal, he breaks a humongous barrier of consent and
trust.
goes inside this man's mind that he's already in and forces him to do something, which is, again, such a great theme to drive home with this, is saying both of these men
are willing to do
can think, and they will find ways to justify what they're doing. And again, I'm not even, and that's the writing and all of this, I'm not even necessarily saying that Charles was 100% wrong, because I think he might have had to do that, but it's still wrong.
that point,
You're still invading someone's, you're literally taking away someone's agency. It may be for a few minutes,
Yeah.
but you're still taking that away from someone.
That's something that Charles is.
And there's something to do with his character a lot.
Well,
yeah.
he's tried to make sure, but throughout the years in the comics, it's kind of been what's the word? Inferred or whatever that Charles is not always so straight-laced about his abilities. It's kind of been implied that, without really knowing, he's pushed people to do things and influenced people to get what he wants and whatnot.
I mean, how can you not? You can read people's minds. You know what I mean? That's that's his issue with the character. Like, that's issue with the character,
I have
right?
no
That's
doubt that at his core, that the character of Charles Xavier does his absolute best to not use his powers like just willy-nilly for bullshit. Like, hey, I don't want to take out the garbage, so I'm going to make Colossus do it. Hey,
Yeah.
right, like that. You know what I'm talking about?
Shit like that, yeah.
Right, but you can't deny that he is willing to fucking do these things, and
So I didn't. By the
He
way,
does it
I never
tonight,
answered
Nito.
you. I never answered you.
But you didn't think
I
Onslaught?
didn't. I never thought that. I
the only
thought
reason is because I read a bunch of articles that threw that theory
and
out.
they teased. They kind of teased.
They threw the theory out, and it made sense. But I was thinking that's too much too soon.
I will tell you this though, where it ends, I 100% knew that's exactly what they were gonna do. In a sense where they said they were displaced throughout time. I'm like, fuck me, they're gonna do Apocalypse, and we'll get to that. But
Yeah, we're good.
I didn't think Onslaught was gonna happen. I truly could, and again,
Well, I'm glad it didn't.
and again, I love that Wolverine's not a part of this because he's obviously out of commission. He just had metal ripped out of his
So
body.
Bo DeMeo says, right? Did you read this tweet?
that Morph's response turning into Gene and telling him that he loved him was a romantic response.
From Morph
From
themselves,
Morph to Wolverine.
which is cool.
Is whatever.
We don't have any punk ass alt right douchebags talking about that.
I guess it's cool. I mean, I don't have an opinion on it. To be
No,
quite
I'm
honest.
saying
no.
like, we don't have a Griff report this week on that. I'm just saying. I'm wondering.
Well, no, we don't.
I don't have that stuff in my algorithm, so I rely on you for that bullshit.
Oh my God.
You really gonna put that on me? Yeah, that's another one.
The coroner comes by. Oh my
My
God.
God.
I love how he fucking pantomimes the
Yeah.
cigar.
Yeah.
Get out. Well, get out now.
Some other things, like we talked about with Cable and another thing about just the subtlety and the attention to detail when they're all at the end when they're fucking fighting on Asteroid M and they think it might be it, and you see when Scott unleashes all of his power, a fucking tear coming down his cheek. I'm like, God damn it! And what had I have been saying to you for a long time? I've been saying, when X-Men is a fucking soap opera, it is good, man. It is so good. Top to bottom, episode 1 to 10, this has been perfection. And I'm not just throwing that word around. I mean that 100%.
You're not alone in thinking that. Myself included.
Every single fucking episode was great. And it is, some people are saying it. I'm going to put my stamp on it too. I agree. This is the best thing Marvel has done since Endgame, bar none. I loved other projects that they've done, but I think this is to the level of that.
To your point, I think what we talked about, doing DC books or doing Chew in addition to Punisher, just to kind of get away from being whatever. But I think the reason why these books, Spider-Man to a lesser degree for me, but X-Men so much, is that X-Men reflects a lot of real life, and they're relatable characters, and so is Spider-Man, because they're going through shit that you might go through.
Spider-Man,
but they're also superheroes, and
it's the trope of
man,
that Spider-Man and X-Men are better
so when you're not Superman, you're a fucking reporter who has a hot wife, reporter.
Ugh.
So when you're not Batman, you're a billionaire. All right, I don't relate to that shit.
Will you fuck off?
I'm
so
saying
sick of your DC.
I am
banter.
saying that it does become a better thing when it reflects, when it shows life back to you a little bit better.
It's like what I'm saying. It's the trope of like it's better when
I hate to say it, but the angst.
when it's long running like this, especially, it's better when the hero loses some. Like it's better when the hero is miserable.
The tragic hero is the best story
because every
Star Wars.
It's
tragic hero story.
It's here's something from pro wrestling. It's always about legit. It is.
No, I'm cool with that.
It's a use for this. It's all about the chase. It's all about that good guy beating that really fucking bad guy.
Yep.
And you're on that journey with
Yes.
him. And it's gonna take a couple months, but when it happens,
And
he
then
does
fucking
it,
Thor
and he-
grabs, and then fucking Captain America grabs Thor's hammer, and everybody fucking erupts in applause.
fucking tale as old as time. And I will say this is also an extremely satisfying finale. And the Bastion stuff, like they continue to make him such a dickhead, and I love it. And like when
What are you gonna do? Attack me with the 4th of July?
yeah, that was great. And then she beats the shit out of him. And then fucking Beast uses his own Sentinel against him and is crushing him with the weight of his like just pushing down. And then that's the moment, a great moment where Scott shows mercy, and it's just like it's just so satisfying. But even the ending with the cliffhanger, that is satisfying because you know where they're gonna go. But yeah, when they landed and he said they're displaced through time, I legit sat there and I was watching it by myself and I go, they're gonna fuck it, Apocalypse? Serious? Because like we talked, they've done so many huge X-Men storylines from years of fucking books crammed into these 10 episodes. And then we're gonna do Apocalypse?
See, here's the thing: is I don't know how much of like X-Men lore they went through. I know they went through a lot of it and pretty faithfully during the original run. But my other thing is that I had no idea where this was going. I honestly, no shit, legit, thought that they were going to put him in the Australian outback. No shit, dude. I was like, that would be cool as fuck. And there's a lot of fans that would have been like, holy shit.
You doing like Savage Land?
No, the Australian outback when they died in the comics in Dallas. It was I told you about all that. The adversary and whatnot. For like a long time, they lived with the whatever. And that's where the Pierce and the Reavers come from.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I didn't know what was going on, but when they get to the Clan Ascani stuff, I stopped reading around that time in the comics. But I do know from lore and whatnot that the person they're talking to is another Summers kid.
Yeah.
And that's the one that I'm most familiar with, which is Rachel Summers.
Yes, Rachel.
Known as Phoenix sometimes. I think her name is something else in the comics now. I can't remember. But yeah, Rachel Summers. And her story is tragic because she witnessed all of her friends and family die, and then they enslaved her to become a hound, which is they used her psionic abilities to track and kill other mutants. And then she got sent back through time with Nimrod, and it's a whole deal.
They looked around and they said,
What'd you do?
But she was afraid of telling Scott and
Jean.
because when she came back, Jean had been gone for a while, and her mom and dad were Jean Grey and Scott Summers. So Scott's with Madeline Pryor, so that fucked her up. So she's like, I don't know if I want to tell Scott that he's my dad. And but Rachel's had a complicated history in the comics, so I'm interested to see where that goes. If they bring in Captain Britain and try and do some Excalibur type shit.
Captain Britain?
Communist detected on American soil. Lethal force engaged.
Not under Thatcher. No way, man. She would have stomped that shit out herself.
You know what?
Communism is a lie.
All right, knock it off, Liberty Prime. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Get out.
Yeah. We're trying to talk. Yeah, the moment when, who are you? My name is En Saba Nur. Like, oh, like we already know, right?
Yeah.
We already know at that point. But still, when he actually pulls his fucking face mask off and he's got
the blue,
right, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, right? It was almost as cool as at the end of Days of Future Past.
You know what I felt after watching it?
So I'm coming day and night. I mean, it's terrific.
No, but do you? Okay, let's. Can we talk about a couple? Two things here, real quick, while you're collecting yourself.
I ain't collecting shit. All right, go on.
At the end of Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
Okay. It's okay. So we've had First Class and then Days of Future Past in 2 in a row.
That rhymed.
That were great. That are great movies, and it's the end of Days of Future Past, and it's like holy shit.
I love Days of Future Past. That was
but
the
the end,
fun
right,
movie.
where it's like.
Oh, they brought back all the original
and
Bryan Singer.
And the whole thing at the end of that movie.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, cool.
And then
And
Apocalypse.
then they fucking shat all over it.
Oh.
They just fucking took a dump on Oscar Isaac, dude. They're like, hey, wear this giant foam fucking suit, you jackass. You got no drop for me? Come on, man. No new one, old one?
My God.
Sure? Where's the boo? Fuck you.
How about you?
Come on, man. You're the keeper of the sound drops. There you go. I'm not going to eat your ass, though.
Let's move on.
No, but didn't that
Son of a bitch! I've been trying to move on for minutes. Anyway, what were you gonna say? Well, what do you want to fucking say?
Don't you remember how cool that was? Like how excited you were for like, holy shit, they're
Sorry.
going to do Apocalypse in the movies. And I'm excited for this because they've done such a good job and they don't have to fucking whatever continuity that Fox was trying to do with the X-Men.
Yeah.
But they have their own thing going on.
Yeah.
And they can do it however they want. And here's the other brilliant part. They can jump a storyline from the 70s to one from the 90s and back to one from the 80s. And fans of all generations are going to be like, oh, fucking cool. I remember this. And they can do it. If they write it the right way, which they've been doing, I'm fucking stoked, man. I'm fucking stoked. You got no drop for me? Come on. What the fuck? Sorry.
Sloppy.
I love you.
Right.
Off panel, off topic with Jake and Tyler.